Hi, my name is Alain Rousseau. In many cases, notation is 80% of the work. And today I want to go through the notation of space-time as a pyramid. It is a notation used for our model of the real numbers. It achieves quite a lot, but you have to know how to read it. As a reminder, space is what allows you to join extensions. Time is what you use to go from an extension to another extension at a later time. In our model of the real numbers, numbers are space-time and theology, and it makes it slightly more complex. If two numbers are of the same sign, you're just going to add their extensions. If two numbers have different signs, adding them will extract this extension here. For time, it remains the same. When you multiply two numbers, you multiply the extensions, you also multiply the sign, but it doesn't change how you multiply the extension. Number 2 is space, because its extension can be obtained by taking the extension of 1 and joining it to itself. So 2 is space-like. Number 2 is also time, because you can think of it as taking 1 and transforming it into 2. The relationship between 2 and 1 is multiplicative, because as you can see, if you put 1 here, you get 2 here, and the relationship between this and this is the relationship between 2 and 4, which is a multiplication by 2. 2 times 2 equals 4. 2 is the time that goes from here to here, from here to here, or from any space into the space times 2. Numbers must be space because that's how you add them. Numbers must be time because that's how you multiply them. Therefore, numbers must be space-time. To think about numbers as both space and time, you need to couple space and time together. I represent time as an arrow because time is something that transforms. In order to couple time with space, it needs to transform space into space. Indeed, to think of a time, we always took two spaces. These spaces are the output spaces. These spaces here are the input spaces. So this is an input space, this is an output space. So you couple time with space by having an input space and an output space, and time is the thing that links the two. How do you couple space with time? To have space coupled with time, you need time coupled with space, and so you need two spaces. The input space doesn't care about the time, but the output space cares a lot, because the output space is time applied to the input space. In other words, this space-time here couples this time and this space using the input space to make the coupling possible. When time and space are coupled, time is not really time, space is not really space, but time is like space-time and space is like space-time. So space-time has a time-like aspect. Let's call X our space-time. Space-time is time-like, but space is also time-like. This time here both have an input space and an output space. But these spaces are also time-like. And we keep going. The three objects here are exactly the same. They are just pyramids of arrows. The smaller size of the arrows as we go down is just a notation trick. This arrow here is the same as this arrow here. All the arrows are the same. Also, the pyramid never stops, which means that the bottom of the pyramid is the same for this pyramid here, and this pyramid here, because they are just infinite pyramids. We now say that arrows represent time and that pyramids represent space. Using this notation, time transforms an input space into an output space. X as a space-time is both time and a pyramid, which represents space. The time of X is the arrow here. The space of X is the output space here. The input space is just used to couple time and space. The coupling of time and space starts with the number 1. 1 couples the unit space with the time identity. The identity always has the same input space and output space. This space is transformed into this space into this space into this space. The output spaces of the identity always are the same as the input spaces of the identity. The coupling of space and time starts when we couple a space with the identity. The unit becomes a proper space of the identity. For x, any real number, the proper space of x is the pyramid here. By definition, the proper space of x is what you get when you apply the time of x to the unit space. The proper space is a space-time, same as x. This equation can be solved, and the solution to the equation is this pyramid here, where you have the time of x in the proper space of x, and this pyramid is exactly the same as this overall pyramid here. Notation as a pyramid can be used to describe the proper space of x. The proper space of x is a space-time that is the output space when you apply the time of x to the unit space-time. Again, the proper space of x is a space-time that is the output space when you apply the time of x to the unit. The proper time of x is different. The proper time of x is a time that takes any space and transforms it into another space. For example, if the time is 2, then this blue space is transformed into this green space, this blue space into this green space, this blue space into this green space. Time 2 couples all these pairs of space. The proper time of x is a space-time that has a time of x and takes any input space and transforms it into the input space times x. To recap, the pyramid of arrows represents space-time. It can be read as a time, it can be read as a space. The coupling of time and space starts when we couple the unit of space with the identity. Then you have the proper space, which is the space that you get when you apply the time of x to the unit. You also have proper time, which indicates that the time of x can be used to multiply any space into another space. In the story of creation of numbers, the unit is the only space-time that exists at t equals 0. At t equals 1, the infinite line is created. And then for any number x, x has a proper time that, when applied to the unit, goes to the proper space. The proper space and proper time are here in green to indicate that the number x is positive. To add x to another number y, you're going to add the extensions if x and y are of the same sign. You're going to subtract the extensions if x and y are of different sign. To multiply the number x by another number y, you're going to multiply the number y by the time of x, and you're going to get the space xy. Xy as a space. Since it is on the real line, it has also a time, because any point here both have a proper time and a proper space. To conclude, the pyramid is a useful notation because it allows you to think of space-time, which is what you need to think of both the addition and the multiplication within the single object. And when you think of all the points of the real line as space-time, you can think of this infinite line as a complete ordered field, which is exactly what you need to think about numbers with their full algebra. I hope this video was useful for you to understand the notation of space-time. Feel free to check more videos on the channel to understand the full model of the real numbers as space-time in theology.